Today I want to talk about why, in my opinion, Ghost Recon Wildlands failed. Ghost Recon Wildlands was one of the big releases in 2017 for Ubisoft, and the game should have been much more than it actually is. Ubisoft forgot what made the series so special. Ghost Recon got famous for doing many things right. It was the only good stealth strategic squad game for its time. It was a realistic, squad-based shooter game. All missions were stealth missions. If you got spotted, it was game over for most of the time. Many games these days have some kind of special mechanic to them, but Ghost Recon Wildlands is an exception. Ghost Recon Wildlands lost its roots and forgot what made the series great so many years ago. It's a mix of losing its special properties and a greedy company that forces its open world formula on the game. But by doing this, the game lost its identity and got an empty open world map instead. Ubisoft could have made a masterpiece with this game, but they stick to their formula and made the game world bigger than it should have been. The game is just big for the sake of being big. All parts of what divided the series from stealth games like Metal Gear Solids are gone. The stealth is plump and it doesn't feel like an intended feature of the game. Features that make fun, like the ways player can engage in missions, are endless. But this is only because of Ubisoft's bad design choices, not because it was intended to be like this. And the problem is that even Ubisoft probably didn't have a plan of how the game should feel and how it should be played. Ubisoft made an open world game that is bad because it's an open world game. The series was known for its love in leveling design, but this was lost just because Ubisoft wanted to make it an open world game. If we look at Assassin's Creed, Watch Dogs, Far Cry and now at Ghost Recon Wildlands, they all were games that had great features. But if you look at the last games of the series, they all feel the same. They all don't have something special to themselves. Everyone hated Rainbow Six Siege when the first trailers dropped, because it was a multiplayer focused game. The series was single player its whole lifespan, but now it's a very good established game in the gaming scene with an own esports league. Many developers put much effort into their games. Rockstar Games looked at code of racing games to get a view of how to make an enjoyable driving experience for their game. Every game has its own special feel to it, but it's not just Ghost Recon Wildlands that has these problems. It's a problem many AAA titles share these days. And yes, there are exceptions like Rockstar Games, but it feels like less and less publishers and developers put enough effort into their games and oftentimes just let them die. Many mechanics in Ghost Recon Wildlands feel clunky and just misplaced. They're not used to their full potential. Many features are just there to be there. Because to me it very much feels like they just get away with so much these days. Think back to games like Call of Duty. Call of Duty was a very good established series in gaming for a very long time. In the end, the publisher killed the game by releasing a new title to the series every year. A series that got from very good high quality games to mediocre releases every year. But still, people are buying the newer games of the series. Everything in this game feels lush, and everything that makes fun was not intended. Most of the playtime in the game I was just driving around enjoying the graphics, rather than playing the actual story or random map missions. The player starts off with only a few weapons, but in the whole time I played the game I used the same 4 weapons the whole time. If you could choose between trying out a new weapon that you don't know anything about, it sounds interesting on paper, but the weapon UI system makes it nearly impossible for the player to find out which weapon to choose. Because changing them is more of a challenge than clearing the mission through the game. Even after 20 plus hours of playtime, I didn't understand how the leveling system works, because it's designed so confusing. Ubisoft doesn't care about your choices, they just want you to play with your default weapons. It even feels like they made the leveling system so confusing and useless, so the user doesn't even try out what the level up does, because it feels like a waste of time. Every upgrade in the leveling system feels like something that doesn't change your gameplay experience in any way. The map is amazingly large in this game, but also amazingly empty at the same time. The gaming industry loves open worlds, so do many gamers, but is it worth having an open world for the price of an empty map? Many games have the same problem these days. They're all just empty and feel like you don't belong in it. The game tries to be something it wasn't intended to be. The game has just a large map to have a large map. Because people want big open world games where the player can do whatever he wants. But what would you prefer? A big large map with barely anything in it, or a small very detailed map? GTA 5 has a big map and it has many lovely details to it. Which game would you rather play, GTA or Ghost Recon Wildlands? Both are $60 full price games, but which one is better? They even share some features, so it's possible to compare them. In my whole time playing this game, I never had the experience of doing something off the main story besides driving around mindlessly, because the game doesn't give you something to do. There are no things to really do besides the main storyline, no endgame content, no interesting side quests, no nothing. The only thing you can do besides doing the main story are useless random map missions, which at this point are more boring than staring at an empty desktop screen. Ghost Recon Wildlands has the bad habit of trying to be much more than it actually is. Every random mission on the map not only feels the same, but is the same. After only 2 hours of playtime I realized that. The game doesn't try to be something new and innovative, it tries to make the player feel like he's doing something new every time, when it really is just the same thing that the player did half an hour ago, just at some other location. And not only are the random missions the same thing over and over again, even all the territories feel and play the same. Every house you need to get in while playing the main story feels always the same. The enemy AI is either blind and can be outplayed so easily that you don't even need to be stealthy, or the AI sees everything and instantly kills you with 2 shots. And because of these things, the game gets very frustrating very fast. Even some weapon mechanics like bullet drop are in the game but feel non-existent, to be honest. Because of these boring missions, the story didn't even felt worth wasting my time on. Eventually I played through it, and as expected, the story is boring, predictable and just off. The characters in the game, besides the antagonist of course, just feel misplaced. The only reason the campaign is not short is because most of the time playing the main story is wasted by driving around the map to get to the missions. One thing I want to add before I come to my conclusion is that I'm not trying to say the game is bad in all the things it's trying to do and trying to be. I just don't like Ubisoft's attitude of releasing one open world game after another open world game, the exception of course being Rainbow Six Siege. It just feels like Ubisoft just wants to squeeze out money off the Ghost Recon name by making a game that doesn't feel like a Ghost Recon game at all. One thing that changed for the better are the bugs and glitches. Not all of them are fixed, but in the last patch of the game it felt like the devs were listening to the community and their wishes for the game. It looks like Ubisoft wants to fix their games. I mean, look at Rainbow Six Siege. It is a very good game, even though it had a rough start. The same with For Honor, of course. For Honor was like Rainbow Six Siege, unplayable after release, but now a year later it really feels like they care about what the community wants for the game, and that is a very good thing to see. The AAA publisher finally tries to work with the community together. As for now, we can just look forward to the games Ubisoft is going to release in the next few years. Maybe they can prove themselves and show the gaming community that their games are worth buying at release. Ghost Recon Wildlands has not too much to offer. It didn't even use all its potential. The game is not rewarding any kind of uncommon ways to finish a mission, and the game is very repetitive. The world looks great, but it is very empty and just has a few special things to do in it. It feels like Ubisoft rushed this game out. There are too many bugs in the game and the game just feels like a copy-paste Far Cry with only another map and scenario. So another good idea that was wasted by the Ubisoft formula. In the end, it's up to the player whether he thinks the game is good or bad. As for my part and a large part of the community, the game lost its roots and doesn't really know what it wanted to be. It's not a stealth game anymore and it doesn't feel like a squad military simulator, which the series once was.